You're tuning into Black and White Sports on YouTube. The no-holds-barred truth on sports. The main event starts now.
I'm back. Rodrance for Black and White Sports 2. Well, we've talked a lot about the shortcomings of Russell Wilson on and off the field this season and chronicled many of his exploits on and off the field this season. Whether it's cringy videos or Subway ads or Richard Sherman and Marshawn Lynch calling out Russell Wilson for being a pompous ass and not actually answering the phone when they call. Having to go through a manager. Wow. You played with them dudes. You won Super Bowl with them dudes. And it's a horrible look. Well, Russell Wilson's been terrible. In fact, when I really got to thinking about it, I was like, what starting quarterback has been worse this season than Russell Wilson? Actual starting quarterback. Baker Mayfield, I guess, is probably the one that might come to mind. And even Baker got benched for P.J. Walker for a while. What do you do with Russell Wilson? You signed him to a $45 million deal. And now we are to the point where the following is being whispered out loud. So now, something we have not heard in a long time, the words uttered, and they are now being uttered in the same sentence with the Russell Wilson trade, and that's the Herschel Walker deal. Yeah. Now, for full disclosure, Herschel Walker was not a disaster when he got to the Vikings. He wasn't. For 2.5 seasons, he scored 25 touchdowns as a running back. That's pretty damn good. However, of course, it was a massive heist by Jerry Jones and Jimmy Johnson. Well, now it's actually coming out. People are actually saying it. People are actually talking about it. That this is the most lopsided trade since Herschel Walker. Now, look, Seattle's got to win some Super Bowls. But make no mistake, Seattle had a great draft, this past draft. And John Snyder and Pete Carroll look like heroes in Seattle right now. They look like the smartest people in the room. All these years we heard all these rumors about Russell, and here we are, seeing it play out right before our face. So, let's get to this. This is the AP and Yahoo. Russell Wilson trade looks a lot like Herschel Walker's. Herschel Walker, a name I have not heard in a long time. A long time. That's totally not true because we got a political channel and we cover Herschel all the time. But far as the NFL goes, you get my point. By the way, take the time to go look up Herschel Walker's NFL stats. They're really damn good. I don't think a lot of people realize that. The most lopsided trade in NFL history sent Herschel Walker to Minnesota for 2 fistfuls of players and draft picks that served as the pillars of the Dallas Cowboys dynasty in the 1990s. The Russell Wilson trade isn't quite so cockeyed, but 8 months in, it sure looks as one-sided as any deal since the Walker washout that Jerry immediately dubbed the Great Train Robbery. What Denver has 33 years later might very well go down as the Big Bamboozle. Walker wasn't exactly a bust in Minneapolis, scoring 25 TDs in 2.5 seasons with the Vikings, but he was long gone by the time the trade blossomed for the Cowboys after Jones and Jimmy Johnson drafted Emmitt Smith, Alexander Wright, Russell Maryland, Alvin Harper, Dixon Edwards, Robert Jones, Kevin Smith, and Darren Woodson. Wow. On their way to 3 Super Bowl parades. Wilson hasn't been anything like the Broncos expected when GM George Patton sent first and second round picks this year and next, along with 3 players, for the 9-time Pro Bowl quarterback who was supposedly still in his prime at age 33. The $245 million extension he gave Wilson before the season only adds to the angst of Broncos fans who watched a string of quarterbacks fail ever since Peyton Manning walked away to do game shows and commercials with his brothers after winning Super Bowl 50. Look, the honorable mention right now, as bad trades go, honorable mention, Trey Lance for all those picks with the 49ers. That doesn't look so good either. I'm going to call out my own team. The Seattle Seahawks selected tackle Charles Cross in the first round, edge rusher Boyd Meffett in the second, with premium picks they got from Denver. As it stands now, they'll have the number 6 overall selection in the 2023 draft, thanks to Wilson's debacle of a Denver debut. Not only that, but Geno Smith, Wilson's successor in Seattle, is having the kind of season everyone outside of Washington figured Wilson would have in the Rocky Mountains. Smith has the surprising Seahawks tied with the 49ers atop the NFC West. Technically, the Niners are in first because they beat the Seahawks. They're at 6-4. He's completing a league high 72.8% of his passes, has 17 touchdown throws and 4 picks in his first year as a starter since 2014. With 6 losses and 9 starts, Wilson is completing a career worst 59.5% of his passes, is on pace for a career high 57 sacks, and has thrown just 7 TDs to go with 5 picks. That's god-awful terrible. The Broncos are 3-7, sitting in the basement of the AFC West after getting swept by the lowly Raiders and coach Josh McDaniels. The Seahawks are averaging 25.7 points per game, with Smith just a tick more than the 25.3 they averaged during Wilson's tenure in Seattle. Wilson's stunningly poor play in Denver prompted a reporter to ask him Sunday, after a 22-16 overtime loss to the Raiders, if the Broncos just aren't good enough to win these type of games. Fans are wondering if it's Wilson who isn't good enough anymore because the Broncos have lost 6 games by 1 score and negating Denver's dominant defense by averaging just 14.7 points per game. Wow. Oh, okay, here's the stat I was referring to. They'd be an NFL best 9-1 right now if they only averaged in regulation the 19.7 points per game they did last year with Teddy Bridgewater and Drew Lock at quarterback. Good God. Or 20.2 they averaged before that with Lock when he led the league with 15 picks. Or the 20.6 they averaged with Case Keenum. Or the 19.3 they averaged with Trevor Siemian. Same as they averaged in 2011 with Timothy Tebow. Wow. Wow. They go on to talk about him not meshing with Nathaniel Hackett. I mean, you got to give Hackett some credit at this point for at least handing the offense over to Clint Kubiak. I mean, you do have to give him some credit for that, saying, look, am I the problem? Even though a lot of people around the league think Hackett is a really damn good offensive mind, and that's sort of the danger you're running. If Wilson is torpedoing this thing, what happens if Hackett's actually a good coach and you fire him? I mean, how do you know? You have the trade, and that's one thing that's caused a lot of problems. But you got this ridiculous contract right now. And let's say you move off Hackett. Is Sean Payton really taking that job? The way Russell Wilson is playing? Sean Payton's not taking that job. Who is? As long as Wilson's there, it's going to look like one of the worst jobs in the league, even though you got an all-world defense. It seems to me like the only thing you could possibly do if you had to get rid of the coach would be to fire Hackett and elevate the defensive coordinator. But you still got the quarterback situation hanging over your head. I mean, that's where we're at. That's where you're at, Denver Bronco fans. People are literally talking worst NFL trade since Herschel Walker. The trade that will forever live in infamy. If you're a Cowboys fan, it makes you smile, brought you a dynasty. And if you're a Vikings fan, let's just say it didn't. It didn't do that for you. Wow. Unbelievable. Unbelievable. By the way, I may have to make a video about Jimmy G. He showed his ass last night. That team is so much better with Jimmy G than Trey Lance. It is not even close. The Niners, I hope they don't make the mistake of moving off Jimmy G in the offseason. I think there's a chance Jimmy could be like, why don't you guys go pound sand? I'm out of here. Yeah. So I'm gonna do something on Zach Wilson and Jimmy G in just a little while. Peace. I'm out. Till next time, Black and White Network supporters, make sure you go over and check out the Black and White Network merchandise store. 25% off USA First. 25% off USA First. Go now.
Thanks for watching the show. Be sure to like, comment, and subscribe. Be sure to tune in next time on Black and White Sports.